Born under the TI-333 star sign. It's a cat. Meow. Today we take a look at this video. Twitter freaks are targeting Silvervale ... again, says Ref says Desu. The thumbnail involves a list of transphobic VTubers to avoid. And so I was thinking, what's transphobia? Are you afraid of trans people? Like when a person sees a spider and they're arachnophobic, they gonna jump up and like, oh, it's a spider. And like, what's going on? So I was just wondering and set some basic expectations, because I think 99% of trans allies would probably agree that parents shouldn't misgender their kids, but also parents shouldn't lose their kids over misgendering their kids. Right? Everyone understands this more or less, right? So anyway, let's see what the silly Twitter people are doing now with using this word, transphobia.
Hey, what's up guys, Rep here. So today we're dealing with a very frustrating situation where a few days ago, a VTuber made a list of their peers that they are claiming are transphobes. Now, of course, this list contains a lot of outrageous claims, and it also contains names that don't belong there, including Silvervale. Now, if you're familiar with what happened to her in 2023, you're probably getting some deja vu, because she is once again being falsely labeled a transphobe. Now, what happened in 2023? Well,
so is she when she see a trans person, is she like jumping up like and scared, or what's happening?
Of course, we had the Hogwarts legacy harassment campaign. Now, I have spent literally hundreds of hours talking about that harassment campaign on this channel.
I've heard of this campaign, and I didn't really think it's actually relevant to anything at all, but...
And before we get into the current transphobe list that this VTuber has made, let me either remind you or inform you about this harassment campaign. So Hogwarts Legacy releases in February of 2023, and a lot of people made the assumption that if you bought this game, you were a transphobe, because they saw this title, which is of course a Harry Potter.
But how would they think that?
IP, which belongs...
Does it mean you stand up and shout like, oh, I'm scared, when there's trans people? Because you play Hogwarts Legacy? What?
To J.K. Rowling, and people on Twitter believe that she is transphobic.
What do they mean?
So they believe that buying this game, eventually, through a million different steps, ends up killing trans people. That's how outrageous the claims were.
Oh.
And people were saying...
Which, by the way, is a different argument than being transphobic, right? Like, you can kill people without having a phobia of them, right? And I would recommend against killing people, but so it's a different thing, right? And the thing is, if you try to muddy these categories, it's like... Do you think you're helping?
As soon as the game released, they were saying that buying this automatically makes you a transphobe, and that you don't support trans people or gay people or Jewish people and all kinds of other people they believe that are being targeted supposedly through the purchase of this game. And we saw even...
Hey, I'm not against doing targeted boycotts, but you do need an organization that defines the goals of the boycott, or it means anything and everything to anyone and everyone, right? So...
search engines being made by people on the day of this game's release.
Like, the alternative is you get something like this. Find out if people played a game, and then you can hate them. Which is totally irrelevant to doing a boycott. Is it not? Like, what's the point? Also, what is the significance of transphobia in the conversation? There's this thing called bringing some goodwill to a conversation. And then there is conversation that is so estranged from what it could ever hope to achieve that you're basically just guessing what the whole point is. Maybe it's to sell more drugs and operations to vulnerable people. Maybe that's the point, ultimately. I don't know.
So you could search up streamers to see if they're playing this game. And of course,
I'm all for people having more access to medical procedures. Yeah. And for more capacity to give informed consent as well. Yeah, I'm all for people having resources like that. At the end of the day, it comes back to, okay, so what do we want the state to do? And do we have the power to actually make the state do it? Like, give people money. I would love that. I'm a basic income fan, so... And then, yeah, having actual specific services, sure, but anyway.
Of course, this was used as a harassment campaign and a tool for people to search up these streamers and to harass them in their chat. We immediately saw some female streamers like this getting bullied by people. This streamer in particular...
I mean, good thing you can just ban people from your chat, right?
particular was not only streaming Hogwarts Legacy, they were also simultaneously running a charity event for LGBT youth. But despite that, because they're playing this game, they were harassed by dozens to the point of crying on stream. Shortly after, we saw Pikami suggest that she might play Hogwarts Legacy, and then she was blasted with hundreds of messages accusing her of being a transphobe, among other things. We also saw Pip
on Twitter. See, this is a thing on Twitter. I'm not sure. Would I just block everyone who's making unreasonable comments? I don't know. Maybe I would. Maybe. Like, hey, I'll hear you out if you got a 2-page essay in a tweet longer or whatever. I mean, but you got to invest some of your time into this and also demonstrate to me that you already invested a couple of hours into the philosophical groundwork and the coherence of your political positions, right? So I wanna see you synthesize on a 2-page essay the depth of work you've put in to make an argument, right? But anyway,
get harassed and slandered by a bunch of people who are claiming that her streaming of this game was literally getting trans people murdered. We also saw Silvervale, of course, and the reason we talk a lot about Silvervale is not only because she's
and what's like that's some crass framing. Oh, people will get murdered. Okay, I mean, but so why? By the same logic, we could start talking about like how there's a phobia of white men, and so white men will die because of a phobia of white men. Like, it's such a template of an argument, and it's probably not wrong in some way, right? But what's the point? Do you want less people to die or more? And less trans people to die or more, because maybe this is actually gonna kill more trans people by having such a line, and so you're gonna create a backlash ultimately, right? So you're gonna kill more trans people by not understanding what you're talking about and carrying water for people who wanna sell pills and operations, right? I mean, maybe you're killing the trans people, like, but in higher quantities. But maybe you're saving one trans person, but you're killing 10 trans people, right? Like, quote unquote kill anyway, because there is a couple of steps missing in this whole chain of events, and so maybe you don't actually have a level of responsibility there that rise to the level of people being able to say that you kill people, right?
On this list we're talking about today, but she's also arguably the most documented victim of this harassment campaign, where she goes on stream and talks directly about what's happening to her and her reaction. We see this happen through multiple clips that we're gonna once again revisit today. So here we are. This is the recently released.
Is anyone gonna benefit from the most deranged, crass people who don't actually represent your typical trans ally? And so what do we do with it? My first reaction would probably be to just ban, block, and focus on the part where we are all on the same page, pretty much, which is more good service for everyone, including trans people. This is something we can all agree on, I think.
Supposedly transphobic VTuber list. This VTuber saying, here's my sadly ever-changing list of transphobic VTubers to avoid. And of course, the replies are now locked on this tweet, so you can't even argue with the points that they're trying to make. Now let's go to the beginning of this document that has been changed many times, by the way. So it says this.
I do wonder if there's any good reasons here to use such a strange label as such as transphobe for such a list.
A list of those that maybe are good to avoid or not. It's your choice.
Anyway, it's an interesting philosophical and a practical question. How do you deal with troublemakers who want to both wreck the LGBTQ community as well as bother random VTubers, because random VTubers want to have fun with video games?
Note this is from personal experience / others VTubers experiences. I'm taking the screenshots I've seen and the personal stories I've heard to heart. And down here it says, guess I should want.
When I say want, I mean there's probably something going on beyond like them making a conscious choice that they're gonna mess with people who wanna enjoy this video game, or they're making a conscious choice about wanting to wreck the LGBTQ plus community. No, they probably have some hang-up of some kind that makes them believe that this is really a high stakes situation at hand when people play these games. The paranoid tendency you can observe when people create these connections, like, oh, playing this game means you're killing trans people. If you make a paranoid connection like that, that is deeply fascinating, because if you argue on this level, you can construe connections on any level, pretty much.
Once again mention This isn't to harass others, but to ignore. That's the point of this, which is absolutely outrageous. To claim that you're not harassing others or trying to cancel others with this list. You are publicly calling these people transphobes. What do you think's gonna happen to them? Negative things. That's exactly what happened with the Hogwarts Legacy harassment campaign. People got labeled as transphobes for playing that game, and then they got harassed by people who believed that they were transphobes. That's exactly what's happening with this list.
Yeah, you can't just call people transphobic and then play the we don't want to bother cards. Let's see what the list actually says.
What do you think's gonna happen to people put on this list? It's very obvious. But going down at one point under the list of transphobic VTubers, we see Silvervale with a big section here saying, used crocodile tears when addressing Hogwarts Legacy transphobic situation, which led to many trans VTubers being swarmed with hate raids, banned the word trans in her chat for a month or so. The whole situation behind Silvervale is very odd. Her community activity verbally harassed trans people, and she enabled it. And they have this right here as proof. And then also they claim that she started the trans people are Twitter freaks and apparently called them cockroaches. So looking at this section of claims here,
it's like, what did she do? Just give me a quote. What?
Every single one of them is either completely made up or easily disprovable through the most tiny amount of research on this situation. So let's go back in time. It's February of 2023. Silvervale has done a couple of Hogwarts Legacy.
Fascism, isn't that like characterized by taking whatever's popular and then lying about your support for it? And also lying about everyone else and their support for whatever. And like, you know, this is just
tiny amount of research on this situation. So let's go back in time. It's February of 2023. Silvervale.
Like, you take the good thing and then you lie about how much you support the good thing, and you lie about how little the other people support the good thing. It's like fascism 101.
Has done a couple of Hogwarts Legacy streams on Twitch and hasn't really received a lot of backlash quite yet. However, things are starting to pick up with this harassment campaign, and then there's this claim right here where she banned the word trans in her chat. This is an outright lie, by the way, and it is eerily mirrored by these tweets from February of last year where other VTubers were falsely claiming that she was banning the word trans from her chat. Now, this is something that's not only a false claim, it is something she directly addressed at the time, and people intentionally ignored this. In this statement on her Discord server, which would be spread around on Twitter, she would further elaborate what happened here, that this word wasn't banned as her choice or her mod's choice. This was a feature of Twitch's own system, where they automatically hold for review some words like trans, for example, because oftentimes when people are bringing up trans, especially in a stream that has nothing to do with it, there's a chance that someone's being harassed, that they're using the word trans to harass the streamer. It's to protect the streamer and the viewers from transphobia, actually. And in this case, ironically, people were going in and doing something different where they were spamming things like trans rights in her chat to show some sort of a message to her, or they were saying you hate trans people. So in that way, it was getting held for review, but the system was there already. And that's what happened, but people didn't care. They falsely accused her of banning the word trans because in their eyes, she must be transphobic. And it was around that time that the harassment campaign against her really started to ramp up, where she would then, in an emotional statement, address this on stream.
And harassment and doxing and people doxing my friends and like so much horrible, vile things, all from streaming a fucking video game.
It's kind of wild to call that crocodile tears, because like your friends getting doxxed, that's messed up. What is going on?
It's just insane. Like, hate breeds hate and it doesn't help anyone. And I don't know, I got got to the point where I was sick of seeing hatred all over and guilt tripping on random art tweets. It's literally like they gang up on so many random tweets about Valentine's Day or art or automated posts. Like they wanna post so much negativity everywhere, and I just got sick of it. So I block people.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted breathing room.
Obviously, you can.
There's one problem with this, which is she wants breathing room. That's why she blocked people. I block people because they don't deliver an intellectually valuable perspective, right? Like, don't waste my time. I'm totally willing to hear out everyone, but if it's been said before and it's not very smart, I mean, anyway.
Tell from the clip that she was very upset about the situation and very upset not only about the harassment that she, her family, and friends were facing, she was also upset about these claims that she is transphobic, among other things. Okay, obviously upset her, but people were not buying in. By people, I mean many VTubers in the scene. They were mocking the situation, saying that she's still a transphobe. Some people saying that she is attacking Jewish people, that it doesn't matter, she's not getting bullied, that it's backlash, and she's only being criticized, and that they don't care about the situation. In fact, we even saw viral tweets here claiming that she was using her tears to manipulate her viewers. People saying that she was literally weaponizing her cis woman tears. Yes, these are the progressive people attacking a woman for crying.
I wouldn't really say that's the progressive people. I would say this is a 0.1% of trans allies. Anyway.
After being harassed on a mass scale. Now, instead of laying down and continuing to take this harassment, about a day later, Silvervale once again addressed the situation on stream, and we would get one of the most iconic clips that we've ever seen in any VTuber-related situation covered on this channel, where she would fight back and put her foot down, say that she wasn't going to take this harassment, and then she would dub the people harassing her over playing this game the now infamous phrase, Twitter freaks.
Oh.
And to all of the cockroach V-tweeters crawling out from under the floorboards, climbing onto the hate train and making fun of a girl crying after being harassed incessantly for your crumb of clout, fuck you. That's all I had to say.
I wouldn't honor 0.1% of a serious group with an FU. I wouldn't honor them with that. Like, I hope they'll be in a better place in a couple of years from now. I mean, live and learn, as they say.
And we're gonna enjoy this fucking game. And I will not be bullied by a bunch of Twitter freaks with nothing better to do with their goddamn lives.
Fair
Be
enough,
nice to
fair
people.
enough.
If you want to make changes, go make actual changes instead of harassing streamers on the internet. LGBT people are awesome. Twitter people are not awesome. Fuck you. Wizard game!
Yeah, it's you know, it's tricky because he is overgeneralizing there, so gonna get some people pissed who don't understand that you're not the person she's talking about. And like Twitter, I mean, you can be on Twitter and not make your whole identity about being on Twitter, right? So I think it's fair what she's saying here, and I would have worded it differently, but if you feel like she's talking about you, then maybe you wanna reconsider some things. Meow.
So going back to the original document and the person making this transphobic VTuber list, you can see they would once again make another false claim saying she never told her community to stop harassing people, to not use Twitter freaks against trans people. She didn't speak out against any of it. The tears were fake. She didn't and doesn't care about trans people. It's a veil. A silver veil. Wow.
What?
They really were proud of themselves for that one. But once again, instantly
Fascinating when somebody just says things on the internet. It would be nice to see some evidence for this, and you know, we still don't know what she actually did in the first place that makes her a quote-unquote transphobe, right? It's like, okay.
disprovable with this screenshot from her Discord from February 17th of 2023, where she directly addresses this and says, please don't spread hate towards anyone, and that she loves and appreciates everyone, and encourages people to basically focus on their own community and not to go out and harass people. And you can see the number of reactions, almost 3,000 reactions on a Discord message. That's a lot of people in her community seeing this post and agreeing with its message.
Good.
But of course, the person who made this transphobic VTuber list doesn't care about evidence like this. In fact, this direct screenshot was brought to their attention and they dismissed it. That's right, they actually dismissed it. They even wrote notes here about why everything is wrong. So she once again claims that Silvervale was fake crying to rile up her community, and that her side of only semi-discussing the author and spending the majority of the time shit-talking Twitter freaks, a term that refers/has been co-opted to talk about trans people. Another false claim. Again, Twitter freak
Delusion and paranoia. I'm sorry.
was only made to address people who are harassing others for playing a video game. That's all it's ever meant. If you think it means anything more than that, you are making that up. But down here, they also say, talking about not spreading hate, but the community continues to do it, and she doesn't say anything or care. I mean, she's literally saying it right here. It's right here. I mean, once again, and then down here, oh my God, it says LGBT when just trans people are being harassed. What are you talking about? Also, there were people accusing her of being homophobic or anti-Semitic for playing this game as well. And when you say LGBT, that includes trans people. I think you're getting a bit ridiculous when you're saying it was inappropriate of her to use LGBT to address people that you should respect and not harass. That's absolutely outrageous. I was saying with this document that there's a lot of unfounded claims because there wasn't research. I guess it doesn't even matter if they did research, because even when they're presented with evidence that shows that their claims that Silvervale is transphobic is wrong, they just dismiss it with their own headcanon, basically.
You can actually reason yourself into a position where this all makes sense. Delusional paranoia, it all makes sense. And then, but the problem then is that any bit of pushback is actually fatal to your whole understanding of the situation. You really have to be fighting the final battle, so to speak. You really have to be at the precipice of something really bad going really wrong, and you have to push through despite the contradictions, despite the paranoia and delusion that you darn well know you have. But you have to keep going anyway, because it's really at the precipice of mayhem against the trans people. And even though it's the wrong techniques, in fact fascist techniques quite literally, it has to be seen through. And of course, that is a very dangerous place to be in. You're helping at the margins for some company, potentially, and they know this is not the final battle against the decisive, like every battle is a decisive battle to defend the trans community. It's not that, right? It's not the final, it's not yet another decisive battle to defend the trans community. I'm pretty sure. But again, there can be a state of delusion and paranoia where you actually have to keep going, despite even being aware of your own delusion, because, well, you couldn't really rule out that, well, even if you're crazy, you still have to keep going. Well, I'd just like you to think a little harder about this, maybe. Meow.
Now, of course, a lot of people are aware of the Hogwarts Legacy harassment campaign, and they're aware of what happened to people like Silvervale, and that's reflected in the...
And then I say think a bit harder, I may actually mean think a bit less hard, actually, because the hardness of thinking may just keep you railroading into that same track. You know where I mean? You may just be on the same track if you just think harder, so...
comments, which eventually would be turned off on this original tweet sharing the Google Doc. And you can see people basically saying, thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to go follow these people that you're listing. And also, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up on there now, because I had the nerve to question these ridiculous claims against people like Silvervale. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Here we are in the year 2024, and we're still talking about Hogwarts Legacy because of people like this. Everyone said this game would be irrelevant in a month. Well, here we are a year later and still talking about it because people can't let the harassment campaign go, and they're still trying to harass people involved in this situation who simply played a video game. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you...
Yeah, wild stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I will link it below. Do leave a like in that case, etc, etc. Also leave a like over here, rate, comment, share. And I do like to emphasize, share video with people who you know, if you feel like it's worth sharing. Do think about these things. Do think about these things. What do you want to share? What do you want to, not just like, you know, like is such a simple, frictionless activity, and it's like, do you really like it enough to share it with somebody who could talk with you about it, who would treat you as a human being to have a conversation with over the video you just shared? Is the video really worthy of that, of getting shared? Well, think about it. And do leave a like and all this stuff. But still, I want you to maybe think about that as well in your frictionless activities on those social media networks. Anyway, hope you have a good one. I only want the best for you. Stay safe out there. Also hope to see you again.